Well, emission zero, I think we're all aware of Scope 1, Scope 2, Scope 3 emissions and what that means for the country, and the net zero carbon by 2025 and absolute zero carbon by 2040. Whether that's achievable or not remains to be seen, obviously, but that's the target. Why renewable fuels? Well, I think there's a role to play in so many technologies into both reducing emissions and providing that decarbonisation. The simple fit is a low carbon liquid fuel to replace existing fossil fuel derived diesel in particular. Refuelling Solutions as a company is an Australian owned and fully operated entity. It's been operating for the last 35 years, and we're a diesel supply company. But within that structure is a commitment to promote, distribute, and advance the potential for low carbon liquid fuels. The low carbon liquid fuel underpin hybrid technologies throughout the automotive value chain, and also enables the creation of new high skills tech jobs without change in the automotive sector, I guess. More particular to agriculture and other harder to abate sectors, there is not a great deal of alternative currently existing, particularly in aviation, shipping, and to a large portion the heavy duty sectors, and in particular the sectors where farmers or in the built environment, they have large cranes or construction equipment or harvesters and headers, whatever that may be. They have an asset life, and they're not just going to swap that asset out to electrification in a minute, in a hurry. So if we can simply change the fuel those plant and equipment are using, that will then translate to an immediate emissions reduction and assisting on that road to decarbonisation. And you don't have to turn the fleet over, so the asset remains viable for its lifetime or close to, and it's swapped out when that asset ceases its use by date, so to speak. I think we know what biodiesel is. It's not straight vegetable oil or used oil. It's biodiesel today is, although it may be made by some backyard enthusiasts and unregulated, and the poor quality units of the past are long gone. Australia has 3 local biodiesel manufacturing facilities in the country, and that's a small percentage compared to the diesel users. The historical issues with biodiesel has been in the past inconsistent and multi-feedstock, so the quality of the feedstock is crucial to a good end product. There was a distinct lack of quality control. There was no adherence to the fuel standards or OEM support for inferior quality, and rightly so. And initially, biodiesel that was made in Australia or used in Australia resulted in filter blockages in cold temperatures, fuel efficiency issues, and power loss issues. So the process of biodiesel manufacture was transesterification, and that's the most common form of biofuel used in the US and Europe as a replacement for diesel. It can be used as a fuel for vehicles in its pure form, but it is usually blended in a blend to reduce levels of particulates, carbon monoxide, and hydrocarbons. And primarily, although there are increasing number of OEMs, original engine manufacturers, supporting the use of B100 in their equipment, that's still a small percentage of manufacturers globally. The consistent message is that all diesel manufactured globally will run on a 5% blend, and then there are increasing percentages that are coming up to a 20% blend, depending on, once again, the quality of the product or the type of feedstock that's being used. Biodiesel fuel standards, traditionally it's the ASTM D6751 that covers the B100 that's made is the blending with petroleum diesel, and the next standard, the D975, is the standard that incorporates blends up to 5%, and the third one covers the requirement for blends from B6 to B20. Now that's an American standard, and our Australian standard is essentially a combination of the ASTM and the EN 14214 European standard. BQ 9000 is a quality accreditation. It's particular to the United States and Canada, and that's open to any biodiesel manufacturer, marketer or distributor as a proof of quality or a quality assurance. There's no BQ 9000 in Australia, and yet the manufacturers adhere to those standards and have that inherent quality control anyway. The fuel standard there is the EN 14214. That's the European standard. So as I said, our Australian standards, that's the Australian standard, which is the Fuel Quality Standards Biodiesel Determination 2019, and the Fuel Quality Standards for Automotive Diesel Determination. So in summary, that B100 that is supplied in Australia as part of the B5 blend, and that our Australian standard allows for 5% biodiesel in all diesel sold in Australia, providing that B100 conforms with or to the ASTM D6751 and 14214. So the B5 that is manufactured or we supply in Australia both meets and exceeds the fuel quality standards for straight mineral diesel, and is considered, for all intent and purpose, exactly the same as your standard diesel. And that's the actual Commonwealth document that shows that 5% in that standard. Essentially, there is a biodiesel handling and use guide that is adhered to in Australia, and quality is far superior today than what it was 15, 20 years ago when the industry was in its infancy. I think we all know the benefits of biodiesel, and that it does improve air quality. It addresses climate change by reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And importantly for Australian agriculture and manufacture is that if we can produce any percentage of low carbon liquid fuels in Australia, we are reducing our reliance, or Australia's reliance on imported petroleum products. There has been a vacating the manufacturing industry throughout Australia generally, but with the fuel, if we can have some security, fuel security in Australia by supporting local manufacturing of a bio-based fuel from varying feedstocks, and that's forever evolving. That will also support regional development and economic growth. The argument of food versus fuel has been one that's been around for the last 15, 20 years and will continue to do so. And we're not advocating that we use food crops for energy crops, and whatever feedstock is used for energy has to be sustainable. So it depends on both the ratio, whether the feedstock is from marginalised cropping areas, land, or new technologies like algae, for instance, or a combination thereof. You can actually have food and fuel, and as a replacement for the mineral diesel that the world is now pivoting against or away from, I should say. Okay, proven performance. We are now seeing, with the advent of renewable diesel, that's HVO, hydro-treated vegetable oil, it's one step up from the initial biodiesel offerings that was made 15 or 20 years ago. Renewable diesel is chemically indistinguishable to HVO is chemically indistinguishable to mineral diesel, and it has the same proven performance. And biodiesel itself has improved dramatically, and it also has the same or almost the same performance as the mineral diesel, unlike the initial offerings in the past. Current producers in Australia, and there are 3 only, with a capacity of, as you can see on the slide, Ecotech. They're based in Narangba, Queensland. Scanline are based at Rutherford, just in the Hunter Valley, Lower Hunter, New South Wales. And Just Biodiesel based at Barnawatha, which is just over the Albury-Wodonga border. There's a combined total of 105 million litres against a current consumption in Australia of, I think it's 32 billion litres of diesel. So we'll never be able to have enough liquid fuel, bio-based liquid fuel, to replace the consumption of mineral diesel in its current form. However, on the road to that decarbonisation, as newer technologies take place, as I said earlier, we can still utilise a lower carbon alternative in a blend or straight to help that journey along. Currently, Refuelling Solutions, and we started importing renewable diesel, or Neste My Renewable Diesel. The first import was from Finland, where it was manufactured, and currently we're importing it from their refinery in Singapore. And the silly point of this, well, I find it very frustrating, is that the renewable diesel that we're now bringing into the country and advancing as a solution, or as a part solution to decarbonisation, was made from feedstock that Neste procured in Australia, took overseas and manufactured and sent it back. We brought it back into the country as an end product. Australia has the innate capability and conditions to manufacture from a variety of feedstock into its own renewable diesel, and that really is the end game in my view, and obtaining support, both regulatory support and state and federal support for both investment, and incentivise those to invest to manufacture an Australian homegrown product, bio-based product for consumption in Australia, and also incentivise end users for using that. And that's where the sticking point has been. There's been a lack of regulatory support and a lack of clear commitment on both sides of the political divide. Whilst there is now a lot of rhetoric around support, and we're still and we're very, very hopeful that that will translate in the real time and the real commercial aspects, but that's what needs to happen. HVO, or 100, or HVO diesel, the abbreviation stands for hydro-treated vegetable oil, and it's a type of diesel that, next to the vegetable oils, is produced from waste residue oils and fats, such as used cooking oil. So currently the biodiesel producers in Australia aggregate animal fats, waste cooking oil, or tallow from rendering facilities and manufacture. That same feedstock can be utilised by taking that step forward and manufacturing to HVO. Can be used both pure in its 100% concentration, or it can be blended in any ratio like biodiesel can. However, with the HVO specification being exactly the same as our current mineral diesel specification, it should be considered as a direct drop-in replacement. My hope and desire is to see Australia become maybe not self-sufficient in a low carbon liquid fuel, but certainly go a long way to gaining some security and foster a new industry. We can manufacture, we can produce the product, and it will play a role as one technology on the road to decarbonisation. The benefits of HVO, emissions can be reduced by up to 90% over the fuel's life cycle compared to fossil diesel. I guess that changes when we're importing it from Finland or from Singapore by a vessel that's using mineral diesel, but that life cycle analysis that will apply if we're manufacturing in Australia. Certainly helps tailpipe emissions in a mining situation or a closed room generator type at the bottom of a building. Air quality is improved. HVO or diesel, biodiesel itself, is not considered a carcinogen, as is straight renewable straight diesel or the fumes from burning that. Yeah, there it is. There, you're welcome to have this presentation to go through the numbers on the fine particulates, the hydrocarbons, NOx, CO reductions, and the polyaromatic hydrocarbons that are reduced. Global biofuel production forecast to 2025. As you can see, that the industries have developed over time, and there is still capacity to increase that substantially. Production versus and the drivers. In the States, the renewable fuel standard has been adopted. California has a low carbon fuel standard, LCFS, and there's even greater, not restrictions, but requirements coming to that. Blenders have a tax credit for manufacturing and blending requirement to provide a sensible blend, or at least make that available for those that want to contribute or use the product. And there's also an incentive for converting fossil fuel refineries into manufacturing hubs for LCLF, low carbon liquid fuels. Yeah, that's just basically a feel-good bio-based diesel, such as renewable diesel and biodiesel, are available now. Let's clear the air, pun intended, obviously. They are renewable, clean burning, and they're replacements that are reducing Australia's dependence on foreign petroleum. And if we can get that manufacturing up and running in Australia on a much stronger and greater level than it is now, it creates local jobs and economic growth, and we're doing the right thing by the environment as well. Last slide. That's would you like fries with that? Yeah.